Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air, the retired four-star Marine general who was Donald Trump's longest-serving chief of staff, and his new warning tonight about Donald Trump, just days before the election. What he says Trump said about Hitler. Kelly warning that Trump, if elected again, would rule like a dictator. You will hear the audio of General Kelly. Also tonight, Vice President Kamala Harris reacting to this and what the Trump campaign is now saying. Also breaking for the first time, you'll hear the 911 calls from the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. And McDonald's tonight linked to this deadly E. coli outbreak, what the CDC is now saying that this will likely grow, and what McDonald's has now done tonight. First tonight, 13 days until Election Day, 24 million Americans voting already in early voting. With just days to go, former four-star Marine General John Kelly and his new warning about Donald Trump, saying he does not make political endorsements, but why he is now coming forward just days before this election and what he's revealed tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris on this evening, and Donald Trump on the campaign trail making no mention of John Kelly, who he once praised when he chose him as chief of staff. Also tonight, for the first time here, you will hear the chilling 911 calls from the scene of the assassination attempt on Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania.
They just tried to kill President Trump.
The horrified callers just moments after this played out. The deadly E. coli outbreak linked to McDonald's Quarter Pounders. At least one person has died, dozens sickened in at least 10 states. Several people sent to the hospital. The CDC tonight saying cases are expected to grow. Tonight, hear the investigation, the focus on one ingredient, and what McDonald's has now done tonight. This evening, the graphic images coming in, the explosive terror attack in Turkey. Two heavily armed suspects, a man and woman, seen carrying backpacks. What we're learning about who was behind this. The war in Ukraine tonight and this evening, videos circulating online appearing to show troops from North Korea now training in Russia to potentially join Russia in the fight against Ukraine. The White House tonight confirming 3,000 North Korean soldiers are now in Russia. The cruise ship that left from Miami, and tonight the U.S. Coast Guard joining the search for a missing passenger. They believe she fell overboard. In Los Angeles, the fate of Lyle and Eric Menendez, could they soon be freed? Tonight, what the LADA is now saying about his decision and when we'll hear it. Tonight, the airline now allowing passengers to make mid-flight phone calls, to FaceTime, and to hold Zoom meetings from their seats. And what does this mean for other passengers who will have to hear all of this? And two people we've lost tonight. You'll remember their stories. They reached incredible milestones, and tonight they've left us with words to live by.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and we begin tonight with this new warning. With just 13 days to the election, the retired four-star Marine general who was former President Donald Trump's longest-serving chief of staff, retired General John Kelly, warning that if Trump is elected again, he would rule like a dictator. And Kelly describing in detail what Trump said about Hitler on a number of occasions. You will hear the audio of General Kelly right here tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris coming before the cameras this afternoon, calling Trump's alleged comments about Hitler, quote, deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous. As a retired four-star general, General Kelly does not make political endorsements, but he says he felt compelled to speak out after Trump repeatedly threatened to use the American military against the, quote, enemy within, Americans in this country. At a town hall event in Georgia, Donald Trump made no mention of Kelly's comments today, but tonight Donald Trump posting just moments ago that the general is a lowlife who made up a story. Tonight, General John Kelly, in his interview with the New York Times, signaling voters should consider fitness and character when voting for president this year. We have both campaigns covered. Mary Bruce leading us off with the vice president in Pennsylvania tonight.
Tonight, Vice President Kamala Harris issuing a dire warning after Donald Trump's longest-serving chief of staff, retired four-star Marine General John Kelly, told the New York Times Trump fits the definition of a fascist and that the former president has said Adolf Hitler, quote, did some good things.
It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans. This is a window into who Donald Trump really is, from the people who know him best, from the people who worked with him side by side in the Oval Office and in the Situation Room.
Kelly telling The Times Trump repeatedly had words of praise for Hitler.
He commented more than once that, that Hitler did some good things too. And of course, if you know history, again, I think he's lacking in that. But if you know what Hitler was all about, it'd be pretty hard to make an argument that he did anything good.
So what would you say when he said to you that Hitler did a lot of good things?
Well, I tell him that. I said, first of all, you should never say that. But if you knew what Hitler was all about from the beginning to the end, everything he did was in support of his racist, fascist life, philosophy, so that nothing he did you could argue was good.
Kelly saying Trump fits the definition of a fascist.
But certainly, the former president is in the far right area. He's certainly an authoritarian. Admires people who are dictators. He has said that. So he certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, for sure.
Kelly insisting personal loyalty means everything to Trump, that he puts it above loyalty to the Constitution, and that he has an affinity for dictators. As news of Kelly's comments broke overnight, Trump was on stage in Greensboro, North Carolina, praising authoritarian leaders like Russia's Vladimir Putin and China's Xi Jinping.
He's smart. He's a smart man. He's a fierce man. I get along with him very well. Putin, these are people that are tough people.
Kelly's statements an extraordinary move from a four-star general who does not make political endorsements. But Kelly says he felt compelled to speak out after Trump threatened to use the military to go after his political opponents, describing them as the enemy within. Harris seizing on those words today.
Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within, and even said that he would use the United States military to go after American citizens. And let's be clear about who he considers to be the enemy from within. Anyone who refuses to bend a knee or dares to criticize him would qualify, in his mind, as the enemy within, like judges, like journalists, like nonpartisan election officials.
Harris warning that if Trump returns to the White House, he won't have Kelly, the former four-star general, and other top officials from his first administration to serve as a line of defense for the nation.
Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions. Those who once tried to stop him from pursuing his worst impulses would no longer be there, and no longer be there to rein him in. So the bottom line is this. We know what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want?
Harris is here in Pennsylvania tonight for a town hall, and we've just learned that next Tuesday, exactly 1 week from Election Day, she'll be giving a major address outlining her closing argument to the American people, speaking on the National Mall at the exact same site where Donald Trump addressed his supporters and urged them to march to the Capitol on January 6th. Harris using the symbolic site to argue it's time to turn the page on Trump. David.
Mary Bruce leading us off tonight. Mary, thank you. Meantime, former President Donald Trump responding just moments ago on social media, what he's saying about all this. And Trump today in the key battleground state of Georgia asked about the issues that Trump believes will help him win in this very close race, the economy and immigration. Rachel Scott from Georgia tonight.
Tonight, the Trump campaign lashing out at retired four-star General John Kelly, saying Kelly, quote, has totally beclowned himself with these debunked stories he has fabricated. Donald Trump once had high praise for his former chief of staff.
General Kelly will go down in terms of the position of chief of staff, one of the great ever.
But appearing today in battleground Georgia, the former president didn't say a word about Kelly's explosive accusations.
Thank you. What a beautiful place. Thank you very much.
More than 2 million people have already cast their ballots, part of the 24 million Americans around the country who have voted early. with Election Day less than 2 weeks off.
By the way, record numbers of votes are coming in, so that's supposed to be a good thing for us, and we have to make sure. Too big to rig. We want to make it too big to rig, right?
Trump appearing at a town hall meeting of Christian voters, a group he is targeting hard in the final days of his campaign, fielding questions on inflation.
We're going to drill, baby, drill, and that's going to bring everything down.
And on the border.
We talk about inflation, and it's horrible, and the economy, but you take a look at inflation, and the biggest problem to me is the border.
But not a word from Trump on those comments from his former chief of staff. And as he left, he kept his distance from reporters. And David, just minutes ago, Donald Trump posted on social media attacking John Kelly, calling him a lowlife and a bad general, insisting that he completely made up that story. But Kelly now joins a long list of military leaders and former national security advisors that once worked under Donald Trump and have since denounced him, calling him a danger to democracy and the Constitution. That list also includes former national security advisors H.R. McMaster, John Bolton, and General Jim Mattis, who served as defense secretary. David.
Rachel Scott covering the Trump campaign for us. Rachel, thank you. Tonight, for the first time here, we're hearing the chilling 911 calls from the scene of the assassination attempt on Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. The horrified callers, the panic and fear in their voices moments after it played out. Here's Aaron Katursky.
Tonight, for the first time, the 911 calls from the attempted assassination of former President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania.
They just tried to kill President Trump.
In the callers' voices, sheer panic.
Gunshots at the Trump rally.
Yep, the police are on the way.
Well, you better get over here quick.
Chaos in the crowd.
We are at the Trump assembly, and there's a guy shooting. He's been shooting up the place.
This call came in from a neighboring county.
I have a female on the line. Her husband was shot at the Trump rally.
That woman trying to locate her husband. He had been shot and taken by paramedics.
I called Butler Hospital. He's not there. They told me to call 911.
The description she gave the dispatcher matches Jim Copenhaver. He and David Dutch were critically wounded. The shooting killed Corey Comprator and left Trump with a bloodied ear. The chaos you just heard, David, part of a pivotal moment in the 2024 campaign, and there's fear of even more political violence as Election Day nears. David?
Well, let's hope not for sure. Aaron Katursky tonight. Aaron, thank you. Now to the deadly E. coli outbreak linked to McDonald's. Tonight, the CDC now warning that the number of cases could rise. One person is dead, at least 49 sickened in at least 10 states now. Colorado reporting the most cases. Tonight, investigators focusing on one ingredient, slivered onions. And for now, the quarter pounders are off the menu in 1/5 of all McDonald's restaurants, all in the affected region. Here's Mola Lenghi.
Tonight, as health officials race to find the source of the deadly E. coli outbreak linked to McDonald's quarter pounders, they say they expect the number of people affected to grow. So far, they've tracked 49 cases of E. coli across 10 states. At least one person has died, and 10 others had to be hospitalized. The FDA says slivered onions served on quarter pounders are a likely source of contamination. McDonald's pulling the entire sandwich off the menu in the affected states, about 1/5 of all restaurants. CEO Joe Erlinger trying to reassure customers.
We're confident that we'll see our way through this and we'll restore confidence for the American consumer to come to McDonald's.
The outbreak could be a setback for the world's largest hamburger chain. It's been trying to win back customers with $5 value meals after they balked at years of rising prices.
It's all about the timing of getting answers, getting a sign off by the CDC, and making people feel comfortable that this has been addressed.
McDonald's stock down about 5% today.
Well, David, the one death occurring in Mesa County, Colorado, according to public health officials here. And McDonald's says at this point in the investigation, they believe the contamination stems from a single supplier, David.
Mola Lenghi with us here tonight. Mola, thank you. To the war in Ukraine, and tonight the White House is now confirming that 3,000 North Korean soldiers are now inside Russia, and they're being trained there for possible deployment to join the Russians against Ukraine. Martha Raddatz at what she's learned tonight.
Tonight, the White House confirming that some 3,000 North Korean soldiers are inside Russia for a possible combat deployment to Ukraine, a highly concerning move the U.S. calls a sign of desperation and weakness. This video circulating online appears to show the North Koreans at a Russian training site.
If their intention is to participate in this war on Russia's behalf, that is a very, very serious issue.
The White House revealing today that it was early to mid-October when the North Korean soldiers traveled by ship from Wonsan, North Korea to Vladivostok, Russia, and then spread to multiple Russian military sites. Vladimir Putin has suffered extraordinary battlefield losses. More than 500,000 soldiers killed or wounded in the war with Ukraine.
That he has to farm out the fighting to a foreign country, I think speaks volumes about how much his military is suffering and how uncertain he believes, how untenable he believes his situation is.
The White House saying tonight that given Kim Jong-un's willingness to put skin in the game, the North Korean leader likely expects something in return. David?
Yeah, an extraordinary development tonight. Martha, thank you. Now to the chilling images from Turkey tonight of the deadly assault at a major defense company there. The Turkish government calling it a terror attack tonight. Surveillance video showing two attackers, a man and a woman with backpacks there, armed with assault rifles approaching the building. Multiple explosions. Officials say 5 people were killed, 22 injured, including special forces members who responded. Turkish forces tonight moving against multiple militant targets. When we come back, the cruise ship that left Miami, the U.S. Coast Guard tonight joining the search for a missing woman who they say went overboard, and the LADA on his decision involving the Menendez brothers, and when we'll learn. Tonight, the U.S. Coast Guard joining the search for a missing cruise ship passenger off the Bahamas. Authorities say a 66-year-old woman fell overboard from the Royal Caribbean's Allure of the Seas. The ship was sailing from Miami to Nassau. A crucial decision about the fate of Lyle and Eric Menendez now expected by the end of this week. LADA George Gascon signaling his recommendation on whether to re-sentence the brothers could come by Friday. They're serving life without parole for murdering their parents. The DA reviewing new evidence involving the alleged abuse the young son suffered. When we come back tonight, 2 people we lost today. You'll remember their stories, and they left behind words to live by. To the index of other news, Qatar Airways now allowing passengers to make in-flight phone calls, to FaceTime, and to hold Zoom meetings right from their seats. The company says it's counting on passengers to be respectful of those around them. United Airlines set to use Starlink 2, possibly for similar services. Tonight here, we remember 2 remarkable women who reached incredible milestones. Julia Hawkins, a world record sprinter. She took up running on her 100th birthday. On the joy of running in her 11th decade, she called it magic, saying, quote, "When you get out there, your feet have wings." She was 108. And America's oldest woman has died at 115. Elizabeth Francis once ran the coffee shop at our ABC station in Houston. She once said, "I just feel like living every day." When we come back here tonight, America Strong, a baby on the way, and what a first-time grandpa flew across the country to do before the baby arrives. This is really something. Funny tonight here, America Strong, the grandfather-to-be and his first baby gift already. Tonight, the extraordinary gift from a proud father and soon-to-be first-time grandfather. Mark Hendren and his daughter Mackenzie have been inseparable her entire life. Their adventures together, art projects together, surfing, kayaking, eventually, Dad walking her down the aisle. After Mackenzie found out she was expecting her first child and her father's first grandchild, Dad came up with an idea. A former elementary school art teacher, he asked if he could paint a mural for his soon-to-be granddaughter, Daisy, in her nursery. Father and daughter now live across the country, so he got the paint, flew across the country, and penciled in that mural, sketching it out, a place inspired by where his daughter and son-in-law first met. The tree trunks, the tall grass, the white flowers, the mountains, the river, lying on the floor right there to paint it perfectly. Signing it, Love Pop Pop and Mom Mom, Dad with a wave and a thumbs up. And after 4 cross-country flights and 130 hours, this is the finished product. And right here tonight.
Hi, David.
The proud father and soon-to-be grandfather, Pop Pop Mark.
As grandparents to Daisy, we were excited about being involved in their lives and sharing in the responsibility of helping them learn and grow.
And this evening, joining us too.
Hi, David.
Hi, David.
The soon-to-be parents, Mackenzie and Tyler.
As beautiful as the mural is, the part that we're really going to cherish is the fact that he was the one who did it for us.
My dad truly is the perfect role model on what it means to show unconditional love, and that's just something I'm hoping any future parent or grandparent will take away from this.
Wow, it is picture perfect, and congratulations to the parents-to-be. I'm David Muir. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.